This fella didn't leave a name, but he did leave an interesting question. Dear Mr. Mantell, could you talk a bit about your time with Gordon Scozzari? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. American Wrestling Federation, December 1991. Multiple people, including Scozzari himself, have credited Pez Whatley and yourself for saving the AWF TV tapings when Gilbert, I'm presuming Eddie, no-showed. And he adds, did you ever work with Scozzari when he was in Puerto Rico? And what were your thoughts on America's Wrestling Federation running opposite the World Wrestling Council? Thank you for your time.
I don't remember those last two. I don't even remember Scozzari that much, to tell you the truth. I went up there to do the show, and I forgot where it was. Eddie was supposed to be there, Eddie Gilbert. He didn't show up. Now they didn't know what to do. And I don't know how in the hell I ended up kind of helping them do the show. And then I recruited Pez to help me. And if it hadn't been for us, I'm not saying I'm taking credit for it, but at least the show got off the ground and ran, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, it's hard to get a show 30 minutes after you get there. You had nothing to do with putting it together. I don't even know what they wanted to do or what they wanted to come back or whatever. They never told me. They said, let's just do the show. I said, okay. So we put it together and stuck it out there. It was one of those, I mean, fly by night deal. You put out there what you got and hope that it's enough. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Scozzari in Puerto Rico, I don't remember him. And who do you say the World Wrestling Federation running against who?
So, no, it was AWF. This is the same promotion running opposite the World Wrestling Council.
What year was that? Does he say?
He mentioned the year 1991 in the previous paragraph, so around then, I'd presume.
Well, I wasn't there in 91. I was still in my boycott of the Bruiser Brody incident. I didn't go down there. After the Bruiser Brody thing, I stayed out of there for like 6 years, maybe 7. But by that time, WWE had made they had just thrashed, literally like exonerated, I mean, not exonerated, but demolished every, what I call mom and pop territories in the country. I mean, Florida was done. Texas was done. Oklahoma was done. Memphis was still running, and Puerto Rico. Actually, it's ironic that those were the 2 best territories I ever worked in. I made more money there than I made anywhere else. I think the Carolinas were done. Chic was done. All of them were done. So the only reason I went back when I did after the Bruiser Brody incident was, hell, I either worked there or I didn't work anywhere. So, but it was a crazy time, and I don't remember them. I remember some people going in there trying to run against Puerto Rico. Why, I don't know. I mean, it was a great territory at one time. It had about 4 million people there at one time, or 3.5 million people on the island. I think now it's down to under 3 million because a lot of people just had to leave. I mean, they can't get jobs. They can't do this. They can't do that. If they had any kind of a trade, like a doctor or, a nurse, or they just left the island and went to Florida, I guess, or went to wherever they could get a job. And why wrestling territories kept trying to go there, I don't know. Just because of the past, they'd look out in the crowd, they see like 16,000 people. I don't think you could give 16,000 tickets away in Puerto Rico right now. You just can't do it. I think Puerto Rico's been wrestled to death. And I think I had the last hot run there was with, it was called IWA too. That was with Victor Quinones. And I went in there, and guess how I booked it? I started drinking. I said I didn't drink in the 90s. I went to Puerto Rico. Then I started drinking. I would go down to the beach on a Monday, and we'd only work like 3 days a week. We worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'd do our TV on Saturday night. I would go down there on the beach Monday morning about 10 o'clock, 11, and I'd take me a bottle of Malibu rum, and I would sit down there in my little lounge chair, and I'd stay out there 3 hours. And then I would take my little, I call it Senora Malibu, who was my assistant booker. Assistant Malibu had some great ideas. And I would take the ideas that he would give me on the beach and I would take it back. And it was kind of warm out there on the beach. It'd be like 90 degrees. I'd get back to my apartment, turn that air down as low as it could go. Then I'd write the show. And then I would perfect it from, Monday to Thursday. We do interviews on Wednesday. I kind of had it all in my head then. But nobody knew what I was going to do because I didn't tell anybody. Because I left myself room to maneuver on a dime. Because if something happened during the show, so somebody got hurt, I had to change it on the fly. So, and I don't know how many times I did that, and every show was good. We would go to a little place outside San Juan. I forgot the name of it now. It'd seat about, I guess, 2,500 people. We'd sell that out every week. That was like a regular show. But then when we would go to the stadium show, they would seat between 14 and 16,000. And of course, I would bring in some people for that. I'd bring in the Steiners, or I would bring in, Sandman, or I'd bring in Jeff Jarrett. And I would just bring people in, not because I really needed them, because I just wanted it to look like a bigger show. And man, we'd sell it out. You go, Jeff Jarrett, he came down there one day and he's looking out there. Place is jammed. And he says, "What are you doing here? How are you doing this?" And I went, you know what I said? I don't know. I said, I don't know. I think I said this. I said, I don't know. Lucky, I guess. He went, "Bullshit. You're doing something." And that went that way probably about two years strong. We used to have weeks, and this is just under regular pricing. We would have some weeks of $125,000 just ticket sales on 3 days a week. Of course, the big night was Saturday night, but that was a lot of money. Just that, and they had the gimmick sales and the beer sales. So anyway, it did really, really, really well. And I would go out and sit in the dugout, and I said, I wonder how this, before I would start booking anything, I'd walk in about, I don't know, 7:30. Show's supposed to start at 8:30. Show would start usually about 9:23, because nobody's on time in Puerto Rico. The fans aren't even on time. I mean, if you tell somebody 8:30, that could mean anything from 9 o'clock to 9:45. I mean, they call that Puerto Rican time. That's what they call it. Even people laugh about it. Oh, that's Puerto Rican time, So I would go in there, and before I would even give any finishes out, I'd go in there and I'd order me 2 beers and 2 margaritas. And I would sit there and I'd drink the margaritas first because it wasn't as much. Then I'd start on the beers. And by the time that I got pretty well relaxed, well, okay, let's start handing the stuff out. And then I'd hand it out. And my assistant there was Luke of the Bushwhackers. And we would meet every Saturday morning about 10 o'clock, even though we lived right next to each other. We would go down to Denny's and we would have like a pre-match get together. And Luke would look at me, and he was in a bad mood. He said, "Matey, what do you want to do tonight, matey?" And I said, "I don't know. Just put the baby faces over." "Well, mate, hey. He'd get all excited. I said, What? He says, "What about Legendo versus Blitz?" And we had a guy named Blitz. And he had worked this long, drawn-out finish. I said, No. Put the baby faces over and don't work anything kind of difficult. Just put the baby face over so the people are happy and get them out. I said, now later on, when we decide to do something with him, we'll do it. But okay. And I would let Luke handle, like, I don't know, the first 5. We'd have like 7 or 8 matches. 7 maybe. He'd handle the first 4, and then I'd handle the last 3. Because that's all I wanted to work with is the money matches. And just put the baby faces over, which was a pretty good system, if you ask me. You don't got to worry about doing anything later on in the night that they've used in a preliminary match because you just had straight up finishes. And it worked great. It worked good for 2 years. So, and we had, that was Victor Quinones. You know who he is?
You ever heard of him? Yeah. He was sort of a guy with the WWF as well that he helped transfer talent back and forth.
He started there. We started in Puerto Rico. I knew him years and years and years ago. And then he got in with Gorilla Monsoon somehow. Then I think they went to New York and he worked with Gorilla there. And then he went back to Puerto Rico and he always had a part of the Puerto Rican office. And I never knew how. But, and I finally found out later that his parents had a bunch of money and they had invested in the company in the early days. And so did Gorilla Monsoon. So did Abdullah. And I didn't know this, I don't know, till a couple of years ago, really. I knew about Gorilla. But I think after Brody, that the thing happened with Brody, I think that's when Victor pulled away from him. I think he had points in the office, but didn't even talk to him. Didn't he collect on any money or anything? The business after Brody went to shit, though. It stayed down for, I don't know. Actually, it stayed down to I got back there, really. I mean, they were doing okay, but filing bankruptcy during that time is not doing okay. And they had filed bankruptcy during that time. I had gone back there and didn't know that. And then Carlos told me they had filed bankruptcy. I said, what? I didn't know you guys filed bankruptcy. Oh, yeah, I thought you knew. I said, bullshit. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. Why would I want to work with somebody that's, file bankruptcy? That doesn't speak very well of your business outlook. So, but anyway, it is what it is. I didn't really enjoy my time there, but I got through it.
Well, Senor Malibu, the guest booker, would have helped you warm you up a few times.
Great booker. Had great ideas.